Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Daminick with 9to5 Tactical, and today we'll be discussing my love and hate relationship with the Springfield Prodigy. For those who are already watching the channel, you've been knowing that I have ran this my custom Springfield Prodigy for quite some time, and recently I switched up to a Staccato XC in the past month, and today we'll be kind of breaking down why that is the case. Real quick, we're going to go through the base specs of the Prodigy, so just like what you kind of get when you get one. So for me, I chose a 5-inch model, so I have a 5-inch barrel. The barrel is a bull barrel. It has an overall weight of 33 ounces unloaded, so once you have a magazine, it's going to get quite a bit heavier. Has a stainless steel lower frame, polymer grip module, has an overall length of 8.5 inches and a height of I think 5.5 inches. Blacked out rears and a fiber optic front. And lastly, originally the Springfield Prodigy came in a Cerakote black finish. Yeah, that's like the basic rundown of the specs. So we'll get into the mission here, like kind of why I decided to embark on this journey. So about early 2023, I contemplated on getting a double stack 1911 or 2011 as you will, because a lot of other people in our group that shot were planning to build their 2011s. So I was like, I kind of want to do this, but I kind of want to do it separately and see if I could save money and use the extra money to hopefully bring the Prodigy up to par or just like better than like a base Staccato P. That was kind of the initial goal. So long story short, I kind of went into with a I can fix her mindset, and I'll be sharing you the modifications I've done and everything I've did to hopefully improve the firearm itself. I actually waited about 6 months from Springfield Prodigy's release because the Prodigy, as you've known, probably seen on the internet now or from other YouTubers, the Prodigy had some issues from failure to feeds, double feeds, and return to battery. So I kind of want to wait till I got hammered out. So actually the Prodigy has like 2 generations. So the Gen 1 Prodigy slide, it actually doesn't have any cuts on the inside of the slide to reduce weight, but the Gen 2s, from what I've researched, is that the feed wrap is supposed to be more polished or not as harsh, but the one other change you can see visibly is the slide. On the inside of the slide, it has like deeper cuts to reduce the slide weight because people were having some issues with that. So with my choice of Prodigy, I chose the 5-inch model because my initial thought process was, you know, more weight on a pistol equals less recoil. So bigger slide, longer gun, hopefully to be more accurate, and then also have a less felt recoil. So for the starting price, I picked this up for $100 off MSRP at my local Shields. So I got the Prodigy itself for $1,400. I had a Holosun on this, a Holosun 407C, the Gen 2 one, and that was $250. I also had a Surefire X300 Turbo, the B model, and that was $315. The Prodigy looks a bit naked now because currently it's on, of course, the XC that I've been running in our recent videos. So with all those attachments and the gun itself, my initial starting price is at $1,960. So a quick disclaimer how we're going to do a breakdown on the Prodigy. So I did run 5,000 rounds to this, but in chronological order, we're going to be going from the start of 1,000 rounds all the way up to my end goal, 5,000 rounds, and any modification and malfunction I had in between. So the first 1,000 rounds for the Prodigy, I did leave it in stock configuration with no modifications. I just kind of wanted to run the Prodigy through its course, see things I liked, things I didn't like, and if I had any catastrophic malfunctions, I could utilize the warranty from Springfield. Quick disclaimer, unfortunately we didn't have much footage of the Prodigy in its stock configuration. That's because when we first started the channel, the gun was already sent off and YouTube really kind of wasn't a thing in our mind at the time. So the first 1,000 rounds weren't trouble-free. Luckily, I didn't have any catastrophic issues, but we did have some malfunctions, and we will discuss that more when we get into the deeper topic of the malfunctions. So starting at the top here, the optic plate system. I did run the Agency Arms optic plate system, which is designed and made for the Springfield Prodigy. So I didn't really go into the aftermarket world because I did want to, you know, honor any warranty things or just do everything right what the factory recommends for the most optimal results. Unfortunately, the Agency Arms plate, every 300 to 400 rounds, the optic would come loose. The optic plate itself did manage to stay in there. That didn't come loose too often, but it was mainly the optic to the plate. Just to note, when it came to the optic, we were mounting it according to factory spec and using blue Loctite and letting it cure for 24 hours. So we did try to eliminate as much user error from it as possible. Now, it was really annoying because every 300 to 400 rounds, what did I have to do? I had to re-zero it, go through my hollow points again, and rinse and repeat. So my journey through that is kind of funny because I did end up losing a screw during that process. Funny story, under a drill when I was shooting, my red dot came loose and it actually smacked me in my forehead. It did leave like a small bruise and it kind of swelled a little bit, so it was pretty harsh. So when I lost that screw, I originally reached out to Springfield, probably wasn't the right person, and they recommended me to Agency Arms. Agency Arms, they recommended me to Holosun. So that was a bit of a journey I went on, 3 weeks just to get a red dot mounting screw to the red dot to the plate. So just if you have something like that happen to you, make sure you just reach out to Holosun. While we're still on the sights, the front sight, the front fiber optic, that popped out in the first like few hundred rounds, which is kind of weird because according to some people, irons never fail. I think this one failed. In all seriousness, it is a consumable item, so you can buy these in bundles for super cheap, but it's something to note and kind of like a build quality issue. I find that in the first 300 rounds, your front optic probably shouldn't be popping out like that. So diving deeper into the malfunctions, what kind of malfunctions did I encounter? So within the first 1,000 rounds, I think I probably had 20 plus malfunctions. So just don't have an exact number, but it was a lot. The type malfunctions, we'll start off with the failure to extracts. All of them were basically stovepipes where the casing would basically get stuck halfway and just like be like that. I had to clear that quite a bit. Double feeds. I believe it was from the feed ramp being just a bit too aggressive from factory. We tried swapping out magazines using Staccato and Atlas because we first thought it was the Prodigy mags because we have seen reports of those having issues. Unfortunately, it was not that. So when the double feeds happened, it was quite catastrophic for the round itself. I don't necessarily have any pictures from that because it was early on in the process before we did the YouTube, but it would essentially pancake the 9mm round like to half its size, which kind of made it in terms of ballistics probably not safe to use. So we had to toss those out. So it was pretty severe in what would happen to the bullet when there was a double feed. I know others have reported that there were return to battery issues. Luckily, we didn't have any of those. Not a single return to battery issue. Your miles may vary. So most of these malfunctions did happen during the quote-unquote break-in period. So what do I mean quote-unquote? Because I think it might be different from gun to gun, it seems. So around 700 to 800 rounds, the Prodigy just kind of stopped having the malfunctions. Not outright entirely, just the frequency dropped off a cliff where it happened very far in between. That's still a lot of rounds, 700 to 800 to go through and still have 20 plus malfunctions happen. So just something to note if you want to get one for yourself. And lastly, before we start blaming ammo, I was running 115 grain 9mm box ammo. No hand loads, nothing special, just whatever you get from the shelf. Now the break-in period on the Prodigy, just to double back on my sentiment there of being inexcusable, I've had guns that are cheaper in the past go through their break-in period almost malfunction free or not have any malfunctions at all. So I don't think that's excusable for being a budget 2011 but still being $1,500. For the things I did enjoy stock in the 1,000 rounds, I did like the grip texture. The grip texture was pretty aggressive. I didn't feel like I needed to get stippled or anything like that. Also, it's like a dual texture setup where it's like sandpaperish on the side and then it almost has like these it has a different texture on the back here, which is actually a little bit more aggressive than the ones on the side panels here. The serrations, the front serrations, I felt like I didn't need to get any lightning cuts for them. They were really easy to use. They were able to grab onto my finger meat quite well. Not necessarily an iron sight shooter, but when I do have to use iron sights, I do enjoy having blacked out rears and a fiber optic front. So it's something really easy to focus on. Well, I did enjoy it until it did pop out. Also, the felt recoil. The felt recoil, obviously being a 2011 style or double sight 1911, is very manageable. With all the extra weight, the bull barrel and all that helped keep the gun shoot relatively flat. The trigger, while still being a little mushy, I did enjoy it over any striker fires out there. So for the things I didn't like, well, I did mention the felt recoil felt soft. There was quite a sluggish return to zero from other full-size 2011s or full-size pistols I've shot. That's due to the slide, of course. You know, this being the 5-inch model, it did travel slower than the 4 1/4. So something to note: if you get the 4 1/4, you'll have a faster return to zero than the 5-inch model. Also, while I did mention the trigger is still better than most striker fires I've shot in the past, the trigger still, compared to other 2011s I've shot, was a bit mushy. It had this weird like mushy feeling around the wall. It wasn't like a crisp, defined wall that I prefer. The trigger also not being a flat face design, that's a bit of a zonk for me. That's personal preference, something you can probably train out through dry fires, but I do prefer a flat face trigger design. The reliability, while it wasn't any catastrophic issues, just running drills, mid-drill, just having to deal with malfunctions was kind of annoying. Moving on to the internal parts here, they have MIM parts, metal injected molded parts. While that still is not necessarily unreliable, as some of the most dutiable striker fighters we know on the market, like Glock, they run MIM parts, and they, you can run a train on those and they run forever basically. But for being a 2011 and still being relatively expensive, I'd say, for a gun, to have MIM parts in what is deemed as a quality budget is a little bit off-putting for me. No toolless guide rod, not necessarily something in terms of reliability it affected, but when it came to field stripping or breaking it down and cleaning it, you would have to spend extra time putting the guide rod back together, opposed to just pressing it and then taking it out like something like you see from Dawson Precision. The slide had this weird hanging up on the rear, where when you racked it towards the back, you can kind of still see it, but it got smoothed out quite a bit, or it just kind of like, it has like this weird not so smoothness towards the back where it hangs up on the disconnector. Safety selectors, they were really mushy from factory. They weren't really a crisp on and off, so that was just something annoying. The slide release from the factory was very flush to the frame. While that's good and all for, like, I guess carrying, under practice, hitting the slide release was pretty difficult, I'd say, under stress. And if your hands were dirty, it'd easily slip off. There was not much protrusion or much texture for your thumbs to catch on. And the mag well, there was not one from factory. Clearly there's one on here right now, but from the factory there was none. And they had a option, you can tell they had like a slot for it where you can just slide it over and then put the bolt in. So I was a little off put why Springfield did not do that from factory. Well, that's a lot of things I mentioned that I didn't like. I did know the issues going into this, and overall I still did enjoy the gun. So that basically includes the first 1,000 rounds, leaving it stock, and all the issues I discovered and things I wanted to swap out. Now we're going to get into our mods here and things I decided to change to address those issues. Starting with the trigger, I did swap it out for the Atlas X-Line trigger system with a flat face design and medium trigger length. I had it set for my finger length exactly. That's why I chose the medium length one. Also, the trigger weight was set at 3.5 pounds, and I reduced the take up significantly from what was there from factory. I believe the trigger weight from factory was intended to be 4.5 to 5 pounds, but because of the mushy feeling that it had from factory, it felt a little bit heavier than that. So that's why I opted out for this Atlas trigger, and that costed me $60, so relatively inexpensive. Also in tandem of how I got the crisp trigger feel that I so desired was from the Atlas Perfect Match Grade Ignition Kit. Now that ran me about $160. What did that do? That basically swapped out all the MIM parts internally except the disconnector and extractor. Those are still Springfield parts. So essentially internally it's not really a Prodigy anymore. But basically I did that to hopefully increase reliability down the road, and it did aid in getting a crisper trigger feel. Next, I opted for the Dawson Precision toolless guide rod. Nothing that really you get any performance or reliability gains per se, but it made cleaning and stripping the gun a lot easier. Not having to put a guide rod back together every time I disassembled it, it made my life just a lot easier. And that ran me $100. Next, we have the safety selectors. The safety selectors, I also went with Atlas again. I didn't like the mushiness feeling from the factory, so I opted for the more crisp Atlas Ambi safety selectors. This mod, due to its angle, is slightly different. It did allow me to get a higher grip than normal from what was there initially. Also, these safety selectors were a bit pricey and they did run me $150. So while we're on the side of the gun here, we have the EGW slide stop. These EGW HD slide stop is comically huge. It's so protruded and it adds extra texturing here. You can probably see that here on camera how big that is. Like, it's comically huge and makes it virtually impossible to miss hitting your slide release. It's a rather inexpensive upgrade too. It ran me $50. Moving down here, we have a flared magwell from EGW. This cost me $50. Originally, this came in black. Nice having this mod, made my reloads a lot easier, especially under reload drills, just being under stress, not having to be super exact when you don't have one. So just, I was a bit off-put that it didn't come with one from factory, given the fact that Springfield offers a slot to have one there. So it just don't really make sense for me why there wasn't there from factory. So with all those mods, I unfortunately don't have the gunsmith tools or skill set to put those in. And most of those mods I mentioned actually do require tuning. So for a good amount of these mods I just mentioned, I did send it off to Valor Precision. Now, Valor Precision did a great job getting everything fit and tuned to my preference. So some of the work that was included was getting the Atlas trigger installed, tuned to 3.5 pounds and reducing the take up, as well as getting the Atlas Perfect Ignition Kit installed and swapping out all the MIM parts internally, getting a better slide fitment to the frame, as well as polishing the feed ramp. Overall, just polishing the moving parts of the gun itself just to make the gun feel smoother and get a better fitment. Sending this off to Valor Precision, getting all that stuff done and getting the parts installed ran me $400. Now after sending it off to Valor Precision, they directly sent it off to Monsoon Tactical. Fun fact, they're both located in Ohio, so that was a relatively fast process. Now, what did I get done at Monsoon Tactical? Starting off, we had the Genghis comp. You can see that on camera. That is a ginormous hole at the top of the gun. I did that to resolve the return to zero issue I was having. I was a bit put off by the sluggish return to zero due to the slide being sluggish due to the 5-inch model. That's just kind of how it is by design, having a longer slide, slower return to zero with the slide moving slower. So Genghis comp resolved that. Also, it did take a little edge off the felt recoil. Additionally, from Monsoon Tactical, I had them do the custom Cerakote job here. Now, it is labeled as Midnight Bronze, but maybe on camera or some of you, it might be just classified as another 50 shades of FTE. Or another term that I've heard is Discount Sandhawk. I also additionally had these Cerakoted black. It was the safety selectors, slide stop, as well as the hammer on the back. Originally, these came in a silver tone color. It's like a silver stainless steel, and I think it was going to look pretty bad with the midnight bronze across, as well as the other black accents on the back strap and the grip safety. Flared magwell here. I think I mentioned it did come in black. That also got Cerakoted midnight bronze as well. So the porting itself for Monsoon itself cost $285, and the Cerakote job cost me $335. And then shipping was $100 on top, so that gave me a price of $820 from Monsoon Tactical. So that concludes all the mods I listed on the gun, and that brings up the total price to $3,750. So after all the mods were said and done, I got the gun back from Monsoon Tactical, and I was pretty excited to get it out to the range as soon as I could to see if all the mods I had done would bring it up to what I expected. Now, the first 100 rounds, they were pretty flawless. I was pretty happy with the gun performance itself, and like, everything was great. Then, around 1100-ish rounds, I was getting failure to extracts up the wazoo. Like almost every string of fire, I was having a failure to extract, failure to extract, failure to extract. And I was pretty upset. You know, I just spent a bunch of money on a gun, you know, $3,000+ getting all this thing done, all the stuff done, getting it tuned, fitted, ported, everything, you know. Oh my God, dude. Even after all that work, Prodigy's temperamental. So for a good week, I sat there, you know, just trying to, you know, figure out what was going on. I was super pissed off, you know, just like, oh man, like I just spent so much. And then eventually we deduced it to it being extractor skip. And now essentially what extractor skip is when the gun cycles and the extractor just does not yank out the casing. And then it tries to feed the next round. So now you basically have a round stuck in there and a casing shoved in the chamber, and you kind of have to clear that out. And it's a bit of a lengthier process than just tapping and racking. Now, to resolve that issue, what did I have to do? I took out the extractor, which, remember, the extractor is still factory extractor from Springfield. I had to take out the extractor, bend it, essentially tuning it, because it is a fixed extractor. It's just basically a single piece, and you just bend it against something and you put it back in. So after resolving the extractor and retuning it, it was pretty good from here. No longer was I getting the extractor skip, and I can just tell you all the performance gains from here. So working our way up to 2,000 rounds, things I discovered along the process: the malfunctions, double feeds, and failure to extracts. Luckily, as I mentioned before, the extractor skip was not happening anymore. I did occasionally still get stovepipes. So that would happen infrequently from probably, like, I would say 7 to 1,000. I would go through at least 700 to 1,000 rounds before anything like that happened. So it wasn't like every other range session. I'd probably go 2 or 3 range sessions without a stovepipe, and then boom, I just get a stovepipe, tap and rack, and then move on. Double feeds. Valid Precision did a great job of polishing the feed ramp, so the amount of double feeds was also reduced. I probably only count like maybe 2 or 3 double feeds ever happening within these next 1,000 rounds. So not entirely flawless, but their frequency was reduced significantly to the point where I was confident I could finish this drill without having a malfunction. Now, additionally, the performance gains. I felt a lot of these performance gains on this 1,000 rounds. Even initially when I first got it back and just popped out a few rounds to see how it felt. The Genghis comp, man, that helped quite a bit with the return to zero. The return to zero was noticeably faster than what it was stock. Also, it took a little bit of the bite off the felt recoil. Something to note with the Genghis comp, you've probably seen our channel here and there. We have a Lucky 7s port, which Brandon runs on his Staccato P. Something to note with that is the felt recoil. The Genghis comp definitely helps with the return to zero, but the felt recoil isn't reduced all too much. But the Lucky 7s is the inverse. The return to zero isn't as fast, but the felt recoil is reduced significantly. Just something to note when you're gonna get your porting package done by monsoon. So it wasn't all rainbow and sunshine. There was something I did notice, which I didn't foresee, was a few training issues pop up. One was getting used to the trigger. The trigger being about a pound or a pound and a half lighter, and having the take-up reduced. Definitely had to get used to that trigger breaking a lot sooner, as well as easier. So I didn't want, you want to make sure you get used to that so you don't have any negligent discharges. The safety selector grip angle. Now the safety selector angle, as you can see here, if it's defeated, still quite a bit higher than what is their stock from other 2011s. Now this is in design, so you ride on the safety selector here. As you can see, it's quite a big safety selector. It's definitely made for you to rest your thumb on that. But also with the angle, it's made so you can get more of your palm onto there with a higher grip. Something I had to get used to. It was kind of weird getting used to that feeling. Also, with that higher angle, something I really didn't see happening was me not being able to disengage the rear grip safety. If you have skinnier, lankier hands or not so much meat on your palm, as you can see here, with it being higher up, it definitely takes some meat off of the grip safety. When that happened, I would basically draw the gun, defeat the safety, press a shot off. Nothing would happen because I wasn't disengaging the grip safety. To get around this, I did adopt a stab and pull technique to make sure my webbing and palm would get into the beaver tail as far as possible. Now, all these issues I just mentioned is something you can totally resolve from dry fire. Something we don't do enough, so make sure you get out there, you get good, dry fire, so you can stay good. Now, so far at the gun's end of life cycle under my usage, we got it up to 5,000 rounds. So here are the things I noticed on the 5,000 rounds is that luckily no catastrophic issues, because obviously I have avoided the warranty from factory, so I can't really send it back to Springfield for any major issues I have. So good thing, no catastrophic issues. However, wasn't trouble free. We still would get the odd failure to extract, probably same frequency as I mentioned, at 2,000 rounds every 800 to 1,000 rounds. So at least go a few range sessions without having any issues, and then just get the random stovepipe and clear it out. Of course, thing remained constant every 300 to 500 rounds, but the optic mounted to the agency arms plate would come loose. It would just come loose every 500 rounds. Still very, very annoying and kind of costly too, because when you have to re-zero, of course, remember when you re-zero, you definitely want to re-zero with your training rounds, then also get a different zero for your carry rounds, because they do have different ballistic behavior. So along the confines of the red dot coming loose, around the 3,000 round mark, we kind of noticed that the agency arms plate itself was coming loose. So that also, with the frequency, was about every 1,000 rounds as well. So we kind of got fed up with that. Something to note when you get a Prodigy is that you really have to look into probably different optic plate systems when you get a red dot mounted. And lastly, the extractor issue we initially had, where I had to retune it. Not sure what happened there from factory that required me to adjust the premature wear, but no issues. We haven't had any extractor skip ever since that initial tuning I did around the 1100-ish rounds. So other than the occasional failure to extract, the red dot and the optic plate coming loose, it was pretty relatively stress-free in terms of having any catastrophic failures. So just something to note. Miles may vary, but those were my 5,000 rounds. All right, so we made this far. What are my final thoughts? Did I get the gains I wished for? Yes, I think I got the performance gains I wished for in terms of, just a better trigger feel, felt recoil, just like the follow-up shots, everything. I felt like I was able to be more fast and accurate with this gun. Now, did I get the reliability I wanted? No. Did I make it more reliable? Yes. Unfortunately, spending $3,000 plus, if we want to take out 800 from just, the cosmetic Cerakote alone, it's still above, if not at $3,000. I was still getting reliability issues for, $3,000 plus. That was a little off-putting, so I would say no, I did not get the reliability expectations I wanted, with all the mods put in. So who is this gun for, other than myself? If you're somebody who wants a gun that works out of the box, this is probably not the gun for you. The Prodigy, I think, is a great gun if it worked out of the factory, because it's $1,500, which would put it in the which would lower the bar in terms of entry price and what would make a good 2011. Has the bull barrel, has the weight, has the felt recoil and everything. However, it just doesn't have that, reliability and track record that like the Staccato has. Now, who would I recommend this for? Is somebody who's probably in the competition shooting realm, or somebody who likes to build custom guns. Being at $1,500, and you can also probably at your local gun store pick some of these up for sub $1,000 used. There might be a reason why they're there, so take that with a grain of salt. With all the money you can save with the initial price entry, you can throw it all into modifications, different other porting options, demimming the entire, getting Atlas parts, trigger tuning, basically, customizing the entire gun. It's a 2011, it's compatible with all 2011 gun parts you can get on the market. So the aftermarket, you can go crazy. The unfortunate part is, $1,500 is still a lot of money, and I really can't, make it excusable. It's people say, it's a budget 2011. You can't expect it to be flawless. You're still spending, if you get one MSRP not on sale or used, a four-figure number, $1,500. You can probably buy 3 Glocks as you will for that, and they probably run more flawless than the Prodigy from the factory. From the forums I've read, other YouTubers I've watched, it seems to be a quality assurance issue. So when it leaves the factory, from what I read, some people claim, flawless track record. I haven't had any malfunctions to the Prodigy. Then again, I don't know if those guys are running as much as I am, or they're running it like only like 1,000 rounds a year, or maybe they're going through like 20,000 rounds a year. You know, your miles may vary. I can't, you know, speak for everybody, but for myself, this is the experience I've had. So take it for what it's worth. This is just my experience and track record with the Prodigy. Now, was it worth it? Yeah, I'd say so. I got the performance gains I wished for. I also got the increased reliability that I wanted. Now, it didn't get to the expectation I expected of running flawlessly, but it did reduce the malfunctions to like the very rare stovepipe every like 1,000-ish rounds. However, what still sucked was the agency arms optic plate system just kept coming loose. The plate and the red dot, both of them coming loose. Kind of the reason why I kind of, you know, sidelined this and I don't really carry it anymore. Now, would I do this again? Probably not. I think I went on this long journey, headache, love and hate. You know, it was good. It was also really bad. I think I'm just gonna go a gun with a good track record that I know works out of the box, and maybe modify it on top further then. I just don't want to do this headache. For me personally, if you like to, you know, modify your guns and, you know, you like, you know, going from the ground up, custom, basically making the gun not even what it is, stock form anymore, yeah, do it again, good for you. But me, not gonna do this again. Not worth the headache, not worth the financial troubles I went through. I spent, you know, $3,000+ and I still did not reach the expectation I wanted. Now, unfortunately, as it is right now, I can't really recommend the Prodigy as an everyday carry from its stock configuration. It doesn't mean I hate the Prodigy. I really love what it was trying to do. It was trying to be the next entry-level double sight 1911 that wasn't staccato, bringing the price entry being a lot lower than what would be its competitor, the Staccato P. And that goes for about $2,500 right now. If this was as reliable as that from the factory, this would easily be one of the best double sight 1911s on the market. Now, I don't want to see the Prodigy go away. I really love what it was trying to accomplish. I just hope that a third gen comes around, you know, they keep the lineup going and they just fix the current issues to where this would be one of the best duty guns on the market. If you made it this far, I'd really like to thank you for watching, especially because it's just a lot of me rambling, you know, sharing my experience and knowledge I gained modifying this Prodigy. I just want to really share it out to make sure people are getting, you know, valuable information. And if you have any more questions I didn't answer, just leave a comment below and I'll try to do my best and answer all of those. Now we're here. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification to stay up to date on our content. If you'd like to see more video breakdowns of our 5,000, 10,000, and so forth experience, please let us know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. I was I forgot. I got mixed up. And lastly, this original, because I was saying, I kind of stuttered. Oh my god, you get. Oh, I forgot about that. That's what I have. Oh my god. Maybe we can cut that in somewhere or no? And along the no, I got a good pause there. We can leave it there. No, I was gonna add more, but I was like, nope. No, just cut right there. That's good. Oh. And the guideless tool rod, that doesn't require anything either. Now, unfortunately for the
tool rod.
Huh?
You said the guideless tool rod. Toolless guide rod.
Toolless guide. Oh my god.
Guideless tool rod. What was that last part?
No. Yes. Oh. Yeah, I guess.
We should make that our next one.
Was that good? You like that? Because I'm mad. I know what it feels like. You know?